the founder and CEO of SheerLuxe, and welcome to today's SheerLuxe Middle East podcast. I am really grateful to be joined today by the one and only Marriam Mossalli. Marriam, I've got a long bio here. You are a busy lady. You are the founder of the hugely successful Niche Arabia. You are the author of 2 books under the abaya. You are an investor, an entrepreneur. You are a mother of 2. You are the queen of Jeddah. You're my kind of girl. You've been an amazing host.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure.
Thank you so much for joining us. Before we start, I have to say a huge thank you to Asila for hosting us. We are in one of their suites. We have a stunning backdrop of Jeddah, and we have enjoyed staying in this hotel very much. It has the most divine rooftop pool. Have you been up there?
Yes, I have.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Fabulous. A wonderful spa, a gym that I went to this morning.
Yeah, tick. Good, you did it. Got your workout in.
Here we are. Mariam, I feel like we're not going to be short of chat today. My colleague Elaine said, I'm a little bit worried about you and Georgie together and how much conversation there's going to be. I've got lots to ask you. We've got to start with your upbringing, your background, your early life. Can you give us a bit of a snapshot?
Sure. So I'm a third culture kid. I moved around because my dad was working for the airlines here, Saudi Airlines. I moved back in middle school. I spent about 6 years here before going to boarding school in Switzerland and then university in DC. And then I came back to Saudi and wanted to prove myself. And I think I try to overcompensate a little bit with my Saudi nationalism, but it's really been the, I think, motivation behind a lot of my career choices.
And your parents, your father's from Saudi?
Yes, and my mom is from California, Latina. So, like I said, when my father brought her to Saudi, my grandmother was like, what is this, brown hair, brown eyes? We could have got this here. But she's, definitely assimilated to Saudi culture. She's probably the more Saudi one out of the 2.
Yeah, fully fledged.
Yeah. So, it's been, great growing up with both of them here in Jeddah. And, yeah.
And you have a phenomenal work ethic. I always say that there's one person that makes me feel like I need to up my game and bring the energy, and it's Trini. And I'm adding Marriam to the mix now. Where has your phenomenal work ethic and drive come from?
Well, I think it's from my mother. My mother worked, and we were talking about that with our kids, and them seeing us work. That's just going to be like a no-brainer. That's not going to be something unique. It's going to be normalized. And I think the more women that we have in these positions and working is just going to help increase that female participation.
Yeah. And what was your household like as a child?
I mean, I had to get my homework done no matter what, even if it was like, kind of half-assed. Sorry, but just
like me, I that slapdash.
But I got it done. That was the point. I never didn't hand in an assignment, and I think that's really helped me through my career because I understand the importance of having my name attached to something, and wanting to make sure that I deliver.
Yeah, and I mean, fashion. You look amazing today. I mean, I would like to take that Chanel jacket.
Thank you.
It's really quite wonderful. I don't know if you can see.
I'm sorry.
We've got listeners and we've got viewers. For our viewers, I just have to hold up this. I mean, we should be sponsored by Chanel today.
I know, right?
Or you should be sponsored by Chanel if you're watching. The shoes. Can you wave the shoes?
Yeah, I will do the shoe.
It is a Chanel. I'm wearing my Chanel ballet flats.
I love those. Those are a classic.
They are, aren't they? Talk to me about fashion.
So I actually am always in black, and since I had a baby girl, I've pivoted to pink, and I'm not going to credit the Barbie trend. I'm going to credit my daughter. She's going to be 2 next month. But yeah, I mean, and I don't know, it's just made me happier and more carefree. I really do think that color has an effect. Like, black was always just my practical, take me serious, and I think early in my career I needed that because as a woman entering the workforce, you do want to be taken seriously. Now that I feel like I'm at the top of my career already, I'm inching towards 40, I don't need that. So.
I have to say, talking in fashion, we've spent the last few days together, and you have shopped, and everything you bought, you said, it's for my daughter. It's for my daughter. This is like your pink ticket. Excuse the pun there, for shopping.
Well, I think that, when it comes to fashion, especially luxury, it's all about that, the heirlooms and passing that down. That's how I felt. I mean, I remember as a kid, my mom putting on a Chanel jacket and me being like, I want that. And she goes, when, you work hard enough and can afford it, you'll buy yourself one.
Yeah, I know.
Like, that's
I say
mean.
the same to my children. I'm not going to apologize. I've worked really hard, and you can buy your own. My daughter's actually called Coco, and I've said that for her 18th, I said to my husband, we need to buy. The prices are going up so fast.
You buy it now, yes.
I said, we need to buy her 18th present now.
Exactly,
and then you're on your own.
Yeah.
And then you are on your own.
Yeah.
And I have to say, you are very colourful today.
Yes.
Jeddah is the most colourful place. It's very different from Riyadh. Riyadh is a great city. This is my first trip to Jeddah, and it's a stunning place. The creativity, culture, the atmosphere, the landscape, the people. You're really sort of embodying all of that today.
Well, I mean, look, Jeddah is a West Coast city, you know, and I think that you see that it's more of a melting pot just because we're so close to Mecca and Medina. So you get a lot of pilgrims that came, you know, previously, and they've settled here. So you're going to see a lot of people that are mixed. And I think that really kind of shines through with even our lifestyle, even the cuisine, everything.
And how would you say your lifestyle is different here to the lifestyle in Riyadh, for example?
We're way more laid back. I think that, you know, we're late because, you know, we're just kind of slow, whereas in Riyadh, you're late because of traffic.
I knew you were going to say that. I'm really enjoying that nothing is more than 15
yeah,
minutes
exactly,
away,
right?
other than the beach, which is worth the journey, right?
Definitely. And I mean, even then, we're starting to see a lot of homes being built, you know, in between Jeddah and Abhud, which is our kind of the beach area. So even though it's a 40-minute drive, like, I mean, there's stuff still on the way. It's not like it's like barren land that you're driving from one city to the other. It's definitely being populated, and you see more of the youth moving and settling up north.
It's an amazing place. I couldn't recommend it for a holiday destination more, as in I now really want to bring my family here.
Well, your next trip, you better, you know, you have to come to the St. Regis Red Sea, and there's also the Ritz-Carlton Reserve that's opening up. So really, Red Sea Global is developing all across our coast, and I mean, we need to, because the Red Sea is one of the most beautiful reefs in the world. And I've, you know, dived in other places, Maldives, Jordan even. There's nothing that compares to the Red Sea coral.
Yeah, so I hear, dying to go there. So you went to university in the US, then you moved back to Jeddah straight after that?
Yes, I moved back. I worked as a journalist. I always wanted to be a writer, so that's kind of my passion. And what happened was, you know, when I was working here, I got recruited to Arab News, the leading English newspaper in the region. And I realized that we were basically syndicating our own content. So everything was coming from The Wire, from Reuters or AP. And I was like, that's strange. You know, we need to start telling our own stories. And what I found unique about our generation was that our fathers, you know, were sent abroad to be educated in business administration, architecture, all those things that require the infrastructure of a country. But it was only our generation that really had that kind of creative freedom, where we became restaurateurs, we were graphic designers, we were in, you know, so I really wanted to tell those stories. And so I established the life and style section with a fellow editor. And from there, also realized that, hey, you know, how come I'm being sent to, you know, our neighboring countries like, you know, Dubai for an activation, you know, catering to me, the Saudi, you know, consumer. And I said, you know what, that needs to change. And so I started Niche Arabia, the marketing consulting firm.
And what year was that?
That was around 2011.
Okay.
And
so you've been a journalist up until then?
Yes, up until then. So I moved back. So about 4 years. And then I, you know, basically started focusing on the Saudi female consumer, her 360 needs, whether it's beauty, entertainment, you know, luxury, retail. Because it was kind of like, you know, I always tell people, Saudi was like the most exclusive club. You needed to know somebody to get in, you know, to really kind of know what's going on. And I wanted to be that person. And, you know, and if you look throughout my career, whether it's Niche Arabia or Under the Abaya, it's all about us owning our own narrative. I think that's really key. And I think that's the only way we're going to bake brown G's.
Can I ask you, just a side note before we hear more about Niche? Someone said to me yesterday that they felt like their generation was the generation that was going to have seen it all, and they felt really fortunate to have had the upbringing they had, which was really happy. They didn't feel oppressed. They felt like princesses, and are now living a different life with, you know, without maybe boundaries, but that they'd been happy throughout, but they felt very fortunate to have been on that journey with Saudi. You're that age too. How do you feel about that?
So I think it's, you know, it's funny because I also feel that I was part of that transition from analog to digital as well. And so all of these things I think attribute to this kind of holistic approach in terms of how I look at all of these changes, right? Like back then, the doors were open for Saudi women, and it was just up to us to prove ourselves once we walked through them. So, I always got asked that question, how was it being a female entrepreneur back in 2011? And I was like, it was fine. Again, people kind of extended their hand and were helping me. Now we're in an era where I think now there's more competition, which is also really great, and I think that's going to up our standards. Like, I always tell people, when you're at the top, you collaborate. When you're at the, when you're just starting out, maybe you're a bit more competitive. But I think as women, too, we have a different approach when it comes to how we work together. I find women to be way more collaborative, way more open, than my male counterparts. And I mean, we're still competitive, don't get me wrong, and we still have ambitions.
I think you've got a competitive streak in you.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think I compete with myself.
Yeah.
There goes my, that's my
Pushing
inner
yourself all the
Virgo.
time.
Yeah, that's my inner Virgo, that perfectionist,
Yeah.
that, very self-critical. But I just think, always could do better. I mean, it's one of the things that I teach my team. I say, after every event or project, let's look back on it. Let's see how we could do better. Even if you think it was amazing and the client was super happy, how could we, up it? And I think, that's how we stay a market leader, by always
don't
trying
rest
to
on your laurels, pushing all the time.
Exactly.
So going back to Niche, so you started Niche in 2011. It was just you then?
It's just me.
Talk us through
Sure,
your first client and the journey and what you did. And
Sure, I had $500 in my account, and I'm aware of the privilege. I did live at home, so my rent was covered, but I paid for my driver. That was the first thing, because women couldn't drive back then. So first thing for me to have that independence was, I'm going to be, saving my money and paying for a driver. And what happened was I flew to Dubai. I sat down with Burberry, who was, a company that I knew through my journalism, my journalist days, and convinced them to do an activation. And we did one, and we broke the record in sales over Shanghai with just a small, intimate activation. It was Runway to Reality when they were starting doing that with Christopher Bailey. And then we did another activation with Princess Rima bin Bender at her home, and that was also, another kind of groundbreaking activation that we were doing in Saudi. We were starting to bring brands to us instead of us going to them.
And what did that activation with Princess Rima look like?
So it was the Runway to Reality as well. So you had the fashion show in London, and Christopher Bailey actually did a cute little video for the women of Saudi, which was great.
Nice.
And then the next year he flew. So it was always just about proving ourselves and then coming. And I think, that's kind of where I've always tried to put that stance where, if we're the ones spending, you guys should be catering to us.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we deserve that. And we deserve that attention, and not to just kind of loop us all in together, group us all together as, the Arab women. No, we're all very unique. Every Khalij is different. The Kuwaitis, the Emiratis, the Saudis, and we want to be differentiated,
So your events, communications,
everything,
strategy,
a lot of it is strategy. I would say a lot of it is strategy. We were one of the first companies to start utilizing influencers with our campaigns, with print publications. Like, we kind of did the whole combo. And you have to remember that, again, this is 2011. I had Shoes and Drama, a blog, so I had the digital media, but then I also had the events. And this is now a model that you see a lot of companies, emulating. So even your Harper's, your Vogue, whatever, they also always have like an event arm that they're trying to execute the brand activation as well.
And in terms of the team, you started as you with your $500.
Yes.
Burberry was your first client.
Yes.
And now talk us through the size of the business and what your sort of client roster looks like.
We're based in Jeddah, but we work between Jeddah and Riyadh. We have about 20 employees. I would say 97% female. And I'm really proud of that statistic, because it's really about, me working with these women and allowing them those opportunities that were afforded to me in my career.
They're amazing women,
Yeah,
I have to say.
Thank
had
you.
the pleasure of meeting some of them at our event at the Jeddah Yacht Club. And what an amazing team.
Thank you so much.
Just
They make me proud. They make me look good, for sure.
They do.
And I do believe investing in talent. And even my ex-employees, they're still people I have great relationships with, and some of them now work at with big brands, and they always recommend Niche. So invest in your team for sure. Even the ones that go on to do better things.
Yeah, I so agree. And clients today include?
So basically we came and we had that success. And actually one person that really supported me early on in my career was Princess Rima bin Bender. She was working with Harvey Nichols Riyadh. So having that kind of brand under my belt also just really kind of, tracked it. Once you have Burberry, you get Louboutin, then you get Chanel, then you get all of them.
They all want in.
Yeah, then they all want in. And what happened was, obviously, COVID and things. So in 2020, we did the pivot like everyone when also Saudi started opening up. This was when 2030 was announced. And so we ended up getting government contracts because we had already been working with from the digital marketing side. So now we count, Visit Saudi, Ministry of Culture as our clients, and we've been working with them for over 3 years. So super happy about that. I really believe consistency is key, and you can judge a company based off, the clients that stay with them. But we also don't want our clients dependent on us. So I'm also a true believer when it comes to, let's say, regional and local brands, to empower them to be able to implement that strategy on their own.
Yeah, absolutely. Because for some, for some they have the budget, and for some it is that an early strategy, isn't it? Getting them set up and then watching them flourish and building in-house teams as well. Can you talk to us about Under the Abaya?
Sure. This is my baby.
What an amazing one. I'm going to hold it up for our viewers, but it is really something very special and very unique.
Thanks.
And tell us more about this. Why did you do it? I mean, this is not an easy thing to pull together.
No, and so basically I was asked to go to the States to talk about female entrepreneurship in 2016. When I was there, I was quite shocked at the questions that I was receiving, just because, just going there and being like, wow, they're still asking me if I ride a camel to work. That's kind of crazy. You would think just with media and exposure. That, again, and that's also our fault too, because we haven't put ourselves out there, right? Like we have to understand, the more we put ourselves out there, the more people are going to be educated about our lifestyle. And so I got this idea when I was asked to participate in the Jeddah book fair, because I did not have a book. As a writer, they're like, we really want you to do something, activate something. And I said, well, I've always had this idea, in my back pocket about this street style book where I want women to showcase the, amazing style of Saudi. So the street style is kind of a guise for this female empowerment, because really what it is about showcasing these women and allowing the world to really see them for who they are. And so what I did is I did a post on my Instagram saying, hey girls, I want some pictures of you. I'm going to publish a book. Within 1 week, I had over 1,000 submissions, and it was just people sending me all of their pictures, wanting to be part of it. In 2018, though, they were still quite conservative, so some women didn't really want to show, their full face. They wanted to be part of it and support, but still kind of a bit apprehensive about kind of going all out there. That was the first edition. In 2020, we did the second edition, which is in your hand.
Oh,
and
wow,
the girls,
I didn't know you had two.
The first one, we actually sponsored 4 girls to go into university, which was amazing. We did a collaboration with Future Institute, and we had these young women apply. It was kind of like a little judging thing. And I was telling you, one woman came, and she's like, my son is downstairs. He drove me here. I'm 40 years old, and I want to show him that it's never too late to pursue your dreams. And right then, I was like, you get it. You get the scholarship. Done. And so, it was just beautiful to see this different, range of people. We take, I think, our positions for granted so often, and the world is so diverse. And we really, like I said, I really believe in that. Once you achieve something, to go, look back behind you and help those come up too.
And there's not a type. Well, at our dinner, I also have to say, shout out for Noha, who I met at your dinner. Trying not to cry hearing about the 40-year-old woman. Look at you. Hopeless. And anyway, this is Noha. She was wonderful. I was thrilled to meet her. A beautiful, beautiful woman.
Yeah, so so it's just about highlighting them. Sorry. Yeah. So we have a little paragraph about who they are. I mean, I would love to go deeper and deeper, but it is user,
She's
submitted.
She's got 5 children.
I know, right?
Literally wild. But one thing I was going to say is someone said to me at the dinner, they said, do you think there's a type, a Saudi type? And I was like, oh my God, am I going to get this question wrong? And I was like, no. It's A, Muslim women, B, Saudi women, that it's such a diverse mix of people, and the women look so different, which sounds like a ridiculous thing to say out loud in front of you. But I think people in the West that don't know Saudi, that don't know what's here, have this view, and it's so far from that.
Well, and
again, this book really shows that.
And again, I think that has to do with a lot of the media coverage and the media coming out of the West. I always tell people, in Saudi, the women here are more educated than the men. Statistically, we have, I think, 55% pursue higher education, and it's again, the women were maybe quiet and behind closed doors, but we were still active. Like, again, I established my company in 2011. This is before Saudi 2030 vision was announced. This was, us just doing things, but maybe we weren't in the limelight, and the media didn't shine light on our stories because they thought we were the outliers. We weren't the common thing. And I think now what we're seeing with more women entering the workforce, I think we're at 64%, in our female labor force, which is an amazing statistic for Saudi and how it's jumped over the past 5 years. And this is the reality, and this is the norm, and I think that's what we want to get across.
I had a meeting with somebody who grew up in Oman. I was saying this yesterday, and he spent 17 years there working with, some pretty big organizations and families, and I was asking him about Saudi and his views, and he was saying that there's this youth revolution in Saudi, and it is happening so fast. And in Saudi, when they passed the law that is, half of all people on boards need to be women, the next day, half of all people on boards are women. Can we talk about Pow Beauty?
Yeah, sure. So that's my new baby. So, what happened was a few years ago, I had to kind of just pause on a lot of stuff due to, my son's situation. And that really allowed me to have, it was kind of like a sabbatical without being a sabbatical in a way, where I got to kind of look inside myself and say, okay, what's important? What do I want to do with the next, 10 years? Because I'm definitely retiring after 10 years. No matter what people say, they're like, yeah,
Marriam,
right.
That is
it's
the
happening.
biggest
It's happening.
load of rubbish I've heard it all week.
Yeah. So, but I
I set an alert in my diary. That 10 years is going to come around fast.
No, but I really feel like, I want to give back in a really impactful way. And one way is to invest in these women, female companies. I think this is the next step that I'm doing. Before it was like kind of, promoting these women, being their PR arm. But now it's like, okay, now I need to put, money where my mouth is and kind of start investing. And Powder came along. I was always a consumer. I'm now a co-founder, so I've invested with Ayat and Amina, two amazing women based out of Dubai. And
what's the concept of Powder?
So the concept is a clean beauty platform, destination. We want to have a transparent space for people to come and be educated also about what clean beauty actually means, because that word is kind of thrown around a lot.
Yeah.
And I think, again, this generation of Saudis is quite young, and I think that's the conscious consumer. And they care about not only what they eat, but what they put on themselves. Yeah. And so I want us to be that market leader. I want us to be that safe space.
And you are an e-commerce platform, just to be clear.
Sorry, e-commerce, yes.
Yeah.
And we also have distribution. Yep. So we have, out of 600 plus products, 250 of them are exclusive to us. We also distribute to various stores, outlets such as Harvey Nichols, Nahdi Pharmacy, Bloomingdale's. So and we have brands such as Barbara Stroom, Igne,
You've got some
Bali Body.
amazing brands.
Yes. No, and it's
really
great.
Have, and I think that trust. A lot of people bandy around clean beauty, as we know, and it is that trust. That it is clean. I don't necessarily need to know what ingredients are or aren't in it. I just want to give somewhere I trust that I'm getting the cleanest beauty I can.
I know, and it's true, and I think that's what's really important. We want to start setting that criteria because we're working with a lot of third-party agencies globally to kind of understand like what each of those terms mean. Because again, there's an education aspect to this. I think that is really required, and it's key to building a community, because eventually that's ultimately what we want. Is we want to build a strong community of conscious consumers that are putting out good stuff to the world.
Community is the way forward. In fact, you've got the most phenomenal community here in Jeddah. It really is just that. Talk to me about Kin Euphorics, another business you're an investor of.
So Kin is a brand co-founded by Jen Batchelor and Bella Hadid. It's the first adult functional beverage, so it's alcohol-free. Jen actually went to middle school with me here in Saudi, in Jeddah. So small world. She went off to go to the States, become this amazing entrepreneur, and she invited me to be part of that journey. And I'm super grateful, because I think if anyone can own sober drinking, it's us here in Saudi. Yeah. And that's something that I think I would love for us to kind of continue standing by. That this is a alcohol-free place, and you come here to enjoy other aspects of it.
Our dinner last night, we had the most wonderful evening at Jeddah Yacht Club with the most divine food and chat and women, and I didn't miss not having a drink at all. I mean, it's quite liberating, really.
Yeah, and then you wake up in the morning super refreshed and ready to take on another full day of activity.
I know. This is true. You also have a podcast. So as well as Powder, Kin, Niche, the books. God, I'm tired of thinking about it. You have a non-profit, Saudi Style Council.
Yeah, so that started during COVID. So that was my COVID baby. I think everyone had a COVID baby, whether it was an actual baby or a project. And for me, that was Saudi Style Council. And it was all about getting young creatives to get better representation, get them paid jobs. A lot of times, we would get this whole like, oh, we're this big publication, you should barter with us. And that's not the way the world works, and that's not gonna put food on the table. So what we wanted to do was come in and give them reference points, because again, the creative industry in Saudi is quite green. It's still, very new. And so, I would have like stylists, DMing me saying, Marriam, I'm an up and coming stylist. How much do I charge? And I was like, what does that mean even? Is it styling editorial? Is it going to go on billboards? Is it, commercial? Is it personal? So even then, it was just these broad questions that you could see that they just don't have the experience.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to connect them with international creatives in order to give that type of mentorship.
Amazing.
So we focus, on everyone from the photographer, the art director, the stylist, and everything just to kind of support what the government's already doing with the fashion designers.
It's like official mentoring. That's brilliant. I love that.
It's been great.
You're also a mother.
Yes.
How? Talk to me about the juggle. It's a cliche question, but I mean, wow, you've got quite a lot going on.
So, well, first, I think it's important to note that, I didn't start this all yesterday, right? This is a 15-year career. So I've definitely focused and put my time in on each project and, only take on what I can, hopefully execute well. But I think definitely my biggest project, my biggest challenge was being a mother and having that, because that just distracted the hell out of me. I was like, what? Who cares about the office, Or I'd bring Saud, my son, to every single meeting. I mean, everywhere. And I think that's why people know him so well, because he was always just attached to my hip. I wanted to show women it's not, it's not mutually exclusive. You don't have to be a mom or a businesswoman. You could do both.
Yeah.
And I think showing women that more and more is important. And I wanted to do that, and it was by default too, because again, I didn't want to leave him anywhere. And now I have also a 2-year-old daughter, as you said.
Who you're wildly shopping for.
Exactly.
She's going to do all right.
She's gonna have a nice little nest egg after.
She is.
Yeah.
And how do you juggle it now?
So I would tell you it's all about support network.
Yeah.
And one of the things I remember reading, there was this entrepreneur that was talking, this was like 5 years ago, and she was saying, what I do when I get my money, I don't spend it on, fashion or whatever. I spend it on things that allow me to have more free time, because free time is important. And I did that. So I definitely have help. I definitely have my family
and
as well.
And that's okay to own that as well.
Yeah,
I think
sure.
a lot of the time as a working woman, you feel like that sounds very privileged,
Yes.
but actually, I'm sure like you, it gets easier, doesn't it? But I remember in the early days really feeling the cost of childcare and like running home because I was going to be late and it's going to cost more money, and I think it's okay to own that and acknowledge that when you invest in support, you are investing in your career as well and your
Definitely.
future.
And again, I still get that quality time. I think there's, when I go home at 5 o'clock, I don't have my phone. You can ask anyone, and then that's something that's definitely changed, because before I was always connected. But I shut off and I'm with my kids 100%.
You go home at 5 o'clock?
Yes, I do.
Wow.
Very strict. And
good for you.
Yeah. And I go to bed by 10:30. I'm in bed. By 11, I'm asleep.
What time do you get up?
I wake up at 6:37. So I have that good half an hour alone to just catch up on emails, whatever, where it's really quiet. Then it's the kids, getting them ready for school. And then often I take them to school, and then I go to my flex, my reformer.
You get I was going to say, is there exercising?
Yeah.
You have to exercise here, don't you? Because it's so hot.
Yes.
You're not walking around, you're not moving. And
exactly.
I know, I actually woke up this morning and I was like, I got to do it.
Well, I actually walked to the office. So I rented an office over 3 years ago next to my house, and, trying to reduce my carbon footprint. So I walk to the office.
Good for you. Good for you. Can we talk about some of the most significant or most special milestones in your career? I have to say that you are often quoted as one of the most influential women in Saudi Arabia. Which is phenomenal.
Yeah, it's a privilege. It's a privilege, and I think it's something that I will take. I do take seriously, because again, when all eyes are on you, I think it's really important that you put your best foot forward for everyone. Which kind of could have a lot of pressure too.
Yeah, absolutely. I know the pressure not to fail and to keep going. I know
that momentum.
it's huge, that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Are there moments when you look back and you're like, that was particularly significant? You were telling me about a pop-up that MBS rather enjoyed. Tell us about that.
We worked with Nobu Jeddah when it was still based out of Riyadh. It was the first ever Jeddah season, so it was 2018.
And the Jeddah season is, for people listening that
Oh
don't
yeah,
know.
so Jeddah season was our entertainment calendar. So we kind of shift through the different cities and activate them with different events, whether it's boxing, fashion shows, musical concerts. And so we had this kind of whole series of international pop-ups. And we, as Niche, worked with them to kind of localize it. So we got a female chef, Chef Lama. We even took their international chef, Chef Hervé, to the Jeddah, fish market, so that he could be inspired by our local, ingredients and
the fish here is very special.
Yeah, it's good. Yes, the naja especially is one of my favorite, and I think that's grouper in English. And yeah. Because that's where we were the other night, yes. So,
yes, grouper.
Exactly, yes. So, and MBS, out of all the restaurants, chose ours to come, and with Princess Rima bin Bendit as well. So they chose that, and there's a lot of pictures of him with the chef. And I think, again, always trying to localize and highlight our talents is quite important to me.
God, what a compliment. And share with me a couple of other significant moments.
So I think one of my highlights was I got asked to speak at MIT as a game changer for Saudi, and that was pretty cool, just because, again, it's MIT, and I'm kind of a nerd like that. And that same year, actually that same month, I was also invited to the White House, as the only Arab professional in fashion journalism.
Did you really?
Yeah, so I got to meet Michelle Obama.
Wow.
And that was kind of cool, and have some great conversations. And yeah, I mean, again, this was still before we had fashion weeks and everything. So we were talking about how we could basically support that infrastructure.
God, phenomenal. Credit to you. What about challenges that you've encountered along the way?
I think for me, I'm a perfectionist, and so when things don't go exactly how I expect or I imagine, that's always really hard. And that was something that over years I had to kind of come to grips with, that it's okay for things not to go your way, but it's all about how you react and how you respond to that. Yes, and how you learn. And so I think my greatest, I would say, talent is how to pivot. And I think that's something that any entrepreneur should kind of try to just attain, because that you're going to have to, right?
You got to learn to
you got to move on, exactly, and not dwell on it and learn from it, just to keep going. Yeah.
What advice would you give to women, particularly to Saudi women wanting to start their own business?
I would say, look, I get a lot of women that come to my office and say, Marriam, I want to do this and this. And one of the first things I tell them is that do your market research. Are there competitors? We for some reason, we kind of have blinders on. And I think that, again, we're in a very globalized era. So you have, my competitor now is not just the girl next door, but it's the girl in China, it's the girl in the UK. So I think, doing that research is quite key. And I think with any entrepreneur, it's finding a problem and trying to solve it. And that's how throughout my career, that was everything. I saw with Niche, okay, why am I going there? Why are they not coming to us? Okay, why is our stories not being told the way that we should? Okay, now I'm going to start doing PR. And I think so it's finding that problem, and again, and being authentic. Things, I think that's always kind of the easy recipe for success. If it's authentic to you, then you're going to know it inside and out.
Yeah, authenticity is so key. And what about being a good leader, inspiring others? What's your approach?
So I always tell people, I feel like that was never my plan. It's always just a byproduct. And I think and that's to everyone. If you just keep going forward and stay consistent, you're going to be that. And I think, that's also, again, a responsibility too. I'm very careful of what I put out there these days, because I want to make sure that whatever I put out there is something that's going to have a positive impact on the world, not just on my inner circle. So I think that's something that I always keep in the back of my mind. And I also keep my grandma in the back of my mind. She's my censorship.
And what would your grandma have said
I'm
to
just
you?
saying,
What were her words of wisdom?
Because my grandma's quite on it. She doesn't hold anything back.
Is she still with you?
She's still with us. She's in Las Vegas, and even in terms of cussing and stuff online, it's I don't care about anybody. I care that my grandma will see it. I'm always scared of my grandma.
She keeps you grounded. I love it. And what about your husband? Talk to me about the balance, being such a driven, ambitious woman. I know you work together now.
Yes. So, well, the first thing, I mean, I've known him since 8th grade. You know, we were always friends. We went off to different universities, came back, hung out in Saudi. And the first thing I thought, you know, I asked him was, does your mom work? And he goes, yes. And I said, okay, that's it. That was the first thing. And
that was really important.
The second thing was, does she cook? He's like, no. I was like, perfect.
Okay.
Neither do I.
We're a match.
So, yeah, we're a match. Like, you know, the expectations are going to be good because I don't cook and I work.
I'm not staying at home cooking. Just to be clear.
So I think, you know, with him, there was definitely some growing pains. And I think anyone that says, oh, I have the most supportive husband. Okay, yes, he is the most supportive, but you know, he's still going to want you to be with him. Men are still very
needy.
Yes, thank you. They are. And so I think, you know, it was finding that balance. And also, I let him into my work world, and that really helped me. If there's any advice I can give women, it's don't keep that wall. Do tell them about it, because then they understand it.
And then also, particularly, you know, I'm on my own. You're on your own. You don't have a business partner as it was. I think it's a lonely journey, isn't it, if you don't have anyone to share that with. So I think that's really good advice.
Yeah, no, it's true. And just letting them in, because then they understand. I mean, I remember my husband being like, I don't understand why you're the first one at this event and the last one to leave, and it's you know, you have a whole team. I said, because it is my company, because that I'm leading by example. And then when he started coming and seeing that, then he understood. Then he started saying, okay, this is how the team will react if they start seeing Marriam just leave early.
And this is why you are who you are, because you are that person. Yeah.
Definitely hands-on. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's a good thing, and sometimes maybe it's a bad thing. I like to, you know, the micromanagement, I'm trying to delegate more and more. But I think that's, again, just having trust in your team, you know, and that's really key.
So important. Do you travel a lot?
I used to travel quite often. You know, again, my son's in treatment, so now that he's, you know, hopefully finishing in the next few months, hopefully going back to a little bit more travel. But I think before Saudi opened up, it was really like I was kind of forced to go to Dubai, to go to Paris, to go to London, to have those meetings, to have that face-to-face time with clients, because that's very important. You know, Zoom isn't good for everything. And so, but now that Saudi's opened up, I think that's really helped a lot. And that's kind of been, you know, one of the positives is that I can stay in Jeddah. I can say, no, I'm going to sit here and you guys come to me. And that's been great.
You touched on your son, who's not been well.
Yes.
Can I ask you about that?
Sure.
And the reason I say that is because you are a woman who's sitting here who looks like you have it all. And, you know, you're glamorous, successful, hugely successful. You have 2 children. There will be people listening going, well, she's just got it all and it's been easy. And I always say that nothing is what it seems.
Yeah.
Everyone is fighting battles.
Yes.
Don't judge other women. Everyone is dealing with something. You've dealt with, you know, the one's worst nightmare, an ill child. Yeah. You said he's doing really well.
He's doing great.
Can you tell us a bit about that and how you've coped with that? Because
so, I mean, it was definitely, you know, just a shock. In March 2022, a day after Mother's Day, we got a call from our pediatrician that we needed to go rush to the NICU because they knew already from his blood count that he had cancer. So my son was diagnosed with B-all leukemia. And, you know, that was definitely a shock, to say the least. But, you know, again, we persevered through our network. So it was basically, he had like some little bruising that showed up. It was the 3rd time it showed up. It would go for 1 day, 2 days. And then finally, you know, the 3rd time I was telling his pediatrician, like, we need a blood test.
Right.
So we got that. And again, because of the counts, they knew right away. I mean, and then they did a bone marrow test so that we could, you know, confirm it. But we quite knew already from day one. So at least in that regard, we didn't have to draw this out. It wasn't like a long thing, like what's wrong with our son. It was really just, and then again, a shock. And I always tell people it was kind of like a sprint the first months, just trying to get through induction and consolidation, you know, the chemotherapy. And then now this is kind of like where it slowed down. He's in maintenance, thankfully. But now it's like, now I can start grieving. Now I can start kind of thinking about processing everything, because in the beginning you're just on like, you know, all 4 cylinders because you're a mom and you have to be. And I mean, at the time I was 7 months pregnant. So, you know, my daughter was born 2 months later, again, right after this intense treatment phase. And just having all of those moving parts, like, I think, women are the strongest, things in the world. I have to say, we are able to compartmentalize, we're able to multitask, we're able to just kind of get through it. And I think, and when
Your granny needs to shut her ears, but get shit done.
Yeah, get shit done, exactly. No, and I think, I always get comments from other mothers like, Marriam, I don't know how you did it, you're so strong. And I just keep telling them, it's mom, it's motherhood. Yeah. And I think, again, it made me really resilient. And I lost my older brother when I was 15 years old, and I was very angry at that time when that happened in a car accident. And so, I didn't understand anything. Of course, that was my close brother, but now I understand. I think maybe God did that so that I would be so prepared for this chapter in my life, because really, I think I handled it quite well. And
you were 15.
I was 15 with my brother, yeah. And so when my son was diagnosed, I feel like I was able to kind of process it, and understand, like, okay, yes, I'm grieving this type of life, but it's okay. I just keep looking forwards, and I look at the
survival.
Positive.
You go into survival mode,
yes.
Head down. I'm sure. I mean,
Exactly.
I can't imagine what that's like,
Yeah.
but the only thing I can imagine is that it's right. You've got no choice but to get on with it and do everything you need to do, and hopefully you come out the other side, which you are.
Yes, inshallah,
and all is
no,
looking good for him, and
exactly. No, and I always tell people, it's not about again dwelling on all of this kind of trauma. I think for me, it's how can I use that and spin it into a positive. So, working with the hospital, getting more awareness out about cancer in kids. I mean, it's quite prevalent. It's kind of scary that, and again, the C word is such a scary word. I know when I heard it, it was like just like complete like trauma. And, now I'm educated. Now I understand there's so many different types. There's, there are, the only thing I would say is that, I tell people cancer for me isn't so scary. Chemo is. It's the treatment. I don't know what cancer looks like. I know what chemotherapy looks like. And unfortunately, I am required to poison my son in order to save his life. And that's something that I think we need to change. I think we need more funding, more research on the treatment of cancer, especially for the youth, because they're taking literally the same medicine as adults, just different dosages. So this is something that I hope to raise awareness, and I feel we're not far off. There's really big strides, but not fast enough.
Not fast enough. If anyone can, it's you, and I know you'll use your network and position to do everything you can.
Well, his doctor always jokes. He's like, and I always joke with them. I need my MD soon, because I'm one of those mom that researches everything and what are you doing? What is that? But again, if you're not going to be the advocate for your kid, who is?
Well, we need people like you. Your son is lucky to have you.
Thank you.
As a mother. Thank you for sharing that with us. I do think that will give comfort to lots of people, because so many are battling things.
Again, going into this thing about being out there. The moment people found out about my son, I had so many women reach out to me that have chronic illness in their family with their kids. But I also believe in community. And I think, having that support system. I mean, one of the things that's I notice with the parents when I go to the hospital with my son is all of the parents look at my son and they're just so happy to see a kid that's, at a different stage. He has his hair back and everything. And that's comforting. And I realized even for me, that was hearing the success stories, of these, adults that were childhood cancer survivors.
Yeah, and there are so many. Yeah. The prognosis is good, isn't it, for children?
Inshallah, yes.
Anyway,
thank you.
Marriam, you are really one in a million. Thank you. Will there be another book?
There will be another book. We're going to be opening up to submissions now, so you can go on the website under the abaya and you just submit your photos and a little blurb about you, what you want to tell the world, for all the Saudi girls out there, and then hopefully we'll sell it and hopefully empower another generation of women.
I'm sure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I also have to say thank you to Asila for hosting us. This is a great hotel, isn't it?
And super central, next to everything, so that's what I love about it.
Yeah, we've adored staying here. I'm so taken by Jeddah, and that's so thanks to you. You've been the most amazing host.
We can't wait to have you guys back.
We will be back.
Tell more stories. Thank you, guys.
That's it for today. Thank you, Marriam. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed that, then do please share it with others that you think will too. We will be back soon.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.